begin our work and move on to today's agenda. As we continue in this virtual meeting format, we will begin once again by taking all public comment for committees and plenary at the beginning of our open session. At this time, I would like to ask Ms. Matthews to please call the speakers who have requested to provide public comment. I note that each speaker will have 1 minute for their comments. Ms. Matthews?
Thank you, Chair Kimball. And thank you to all our speakers for your patience this morning. At this time, I will call your names in groups of 3. Please listen for your name. You will be asked to unmute, so please accept the unmute request, and then you may begin your comments. Michael Friend, Randall Santiago, and Charles Toombs. Michael, you are unmuted. You may begin your comments.
All righty. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Friend. I'm a materials engineer from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I am addressing the Finance Committee about divesting CSU-wide funds from fossil fuels. Divestment can be a complicated topic, but to make the problem simple, CSU-wide funds are invested in fossil fuel companies whose product actively hurt the environment, and in turn, me, my peers, and other Californians. And I don't just attend at Cal State, I'm California local. I watched my local coastlines erode away over the years, in part due to rising sea levels and increased intensity of storms as a result of climate change. I've watched residents and local businesses' livelihoods be threatened by this, and thus the product of the fossil fuel companies the CSU invests in. Divestment is complex, but the problem is simple. As a CSU student, I do not want our university systems investing in these companies so long as they focus in producing energy products that harm me, my peers, and other Californians. Thank you.
Thank you. Randall, you're unmuted. You may begin your comments.
Good morning. My name is Randall Santiago, and I currently attend Cal State Long Beach, and I'm a part of Students for Quality Education. I'm here to ask you all to support our campaign of investing in our students by defunding university police. A common question asked is, what about school shooters? These feelings are valid, as I myself fear for the safety of my friends and family. And on October 7, 2019, my concerns became reality. I was in class when we learned that there was an active shooter on campus. We were told to close the doors and not come out, but our doors didn't have locks. Instead, we had to barricade the entrance with chairs and tables, and we had to lock the doors by tying computer wires. Many students were also unaware of the threat, and the inefficiency of communication and protocols from the school, staff, and the police could have led to lives lost. The police apprehended the suspect only for us to find out the next day that they got the wrong person. What I'm trying to say is that no matter how armed the police are, the threat of school violence is there. However, the threat of police for marginalized students on our campus is largely overlooked. Thank you.
Thank you. Charles, you're unmuted. You may begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chancellor Castro and Board of Trustees. I'm Charles Toombs, CFA President and Professor at SDSU. I too am thankful to Governor Newsom and both houses of the legislature for prioritizing public education in the 21-22 budget, which restores recent state funding losses to the CSU and increases the budget for next year. I'm also thankful to the many CFA members and leaders who lobbied with legislators and the governor for this historic budget. With such a healthy budget, we need to make sure the increases in funding go towards students and student learning. This means improving access to the CSU, keeping tuition flat, subsidizing student fees, expanding Black, Indigenous, APITA, Latinx, and other people of color campus support services. This healthy budget means we must compensate fairly CSU faculty who have had direct impact on student learning. Especially, we must honor, respect, and compensate the extraordinary work CSU faculty have done over the last year and a half, pivoting to virtual learning and service delivery and addressing the increased student needs during the pandemic to ensure student success and excellence. Don't praise us to reporters and in public meetings, then refuse to truly honor our work at the bargaining table. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three speakers, Diane Blair, Sasha Perez, and Jennifer Ballantyne. Diane, please accept the unmute request and you may begin your comments. You are unmuted, you may begin.
Good morning. I'm Diane Blair, Communication Professor at Fresno State and CFA Secretary. As the Board of Trustees, Chapter Presidents, and Chancellor consider what paths the CSU will take while we recover from the challenges of the global pandemic and the exacerbated and ongoing inequities within our communities, we feel the need to state once again that it is crucial to include faculty in any discussions of a post-pandemic roadmap for higher education. CFA has been at the forefront of listening to faculty concerns and responding. We have developed two documents, Our Way Forward and Our Anti-Racism and Social Justice Demands, that address the needs of faculty for safe and equitable working conditions free from discrimination, and that spell out in detail what the CSU must do to support our BIPOC faculty and students. Our proposals at the bargaining table focus on rights, respect, and justice, and include specific proposals intended to push for a more equitable CSU, including increased job security for our lecturers and coaches, increasing the number of more racially diverse full-time counselors, and addressing racial and gender cultural taxation for our BIPOC, LGBTQ, and women faculty. If the CSU is to find a more equitable way forward, then faculty must be given a voice and they must be empowered and supported. Thank you.
Thank you. Sasha, you're unmuted. You may begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Fong and Board of Trustees members. My name is Sasha Perez, Public Affairs Manager of the Campaign for College Opportunity. Earlier this month, the Board and Chancellor's Office should have received a copy of our most recent report, Chutes or Ladders, Strengthening Community College Transfer so more students earn the degrees they seek, which speaks to the urgency of improving the community college to four-year university transfer pathway. Our report found that California's institutions of higher education are falling short of their promise to tackle racial inequity when they allow transfer to remain broken, given that the majority of Black and Latinx students in California are enrolled in a California community college. Chutes or Ladders highlights the positive impacts the associate degree for transfer has had in streamlining the transfer process, particularly for CSU students. More than half of CSU students who have an ADT and are on a guaranteed pathway are graduating within 2 years of transfer. But the ADT pathway remains inequitably accessible to students by race and ethnicity. This is why our report recommends establishing ADT enrollment goals for the CSU system and passing AB 928. AB 928 would create the necessary accountability and systems change for the ADT to be accessible to all students by establishing an intersegmental implementation committee, creating a pathway that meets admission requirements at both the CSU and UC, and setting the ADT as the preferred pathway. The evidence is clear. The ADT is a ladder helping CSU students finish their bachelor's degrees in less time. Now, more than ever, is the time for the CSU to join us in transforming transfer by establishing ADT enrollment goals and
If you could wrap up your comments at this time, please.
And moving to support AB 928. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jennifer, you may begin.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Ballantyne. I'm the current executive director of the CSU Shiley Institute for Palliative Care, and speaking to the renaming proposal. In her office at CSU San Marcos, President Karen Haynes kept a collection of kaleidoscopes. Her fondness for them was well known, though I don't recall her ever explaining it. She didn't need to. It was obvious that she was someone who could fashion glorious patterns out of scattered shards. The origin story of the Institute involves the initial inspiration of Roberta Achtenberg and the committed perspiration of the founding director, Helen McNeil, and her tireless staff. Two other things were needed: resources, generously provided by Mrs. Darlene Shiley and others, and the kaleidoscopic vision and steady hand of President Haynes. Through 7 years of dedicated leadership out of the scattered shards of daily decisions, organizational innovations, and more than a few tough negotiations, she kept forming glorious patterns that guided and inspired staff and supporters. Her name absolutely belongs as part of ours. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers, Anthony Jackson, Barbara Menino, and Nia DeJesus. Anthony, you may begin.
All right. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm a retired Major General, United States Marine Corps, and I just termed out as the chair of the foundation board at California State University, San Marcos. I too am speaking about the naming of the CSU Shiley Haynes Institute for Palliative. Over her 15-year presidency, Dr. Haynes was a steadfast leader in her commitment to growing CSUSM for the benefit of the region and beyond. In addition, she was the guiding light in the first campaign to raise funds of $50 million for the university. Her enthusiastic leadership allowed the university to attain that goal, plus an additional 10%. CSUSM was selected as the home of the Institute based on its history of innovation and successful continuing education programs, all of those which were in the vision of Dr. Karen Haynes. The Institute would not be making the impact it is today without President Emerita Haynes embracing its important mission and bringing it forward from idea to implementation. Thanks to Darlene Shiley's generosity and Dr. Haynes' unwavering leadership, the CSU Shiley Palliative Institute is a national leader in educating the present and future workforce and the community. Dr. Karen Haynes was instrumental in bringing forth the Institute.
If you could please wrap up your comments.
And I highly recommend that the naming include her. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Barbara, you may begin.
My name is Barbara Menino, and I'm the past CEO of Vista Community Clinic, a nonprofit health system that serves over 60,000 people annually. I'm now on the board of trustees of the CSUSM Foundation. Today, I am addressing the Committee on Institutional Advancement and the naming of the CSU Shiley Haynes Institute for Palliative Care. Since 2012, its mission is to address the critical shortage of helping professionals with the palliative care skills and training necessary to support our growing and aging population. President Haynes brought the Palliative Care Institute to fruition. As a social worker, she understands the needs of those with either chronic or terminal illnesses. Her compassion and commitment convinced donors like Darlene Shiley to support this effort. Our clinic patients are among those who have benefited from this work. Their lives are better for it. Dr. Haynes created a university where our first generation Hispanic and minority staff and patients have an opportunity for advancement that they never had before. Dr. Haynes and Darlene Shiley deserve to be recognized for the cutting edge work of the Institute. Thank you.
Thank you. Nia, you may begin.
All right. Good morning. My name is Nia DeJesus, and I am a student at Stanislaus State. As a member of SQE, I humbly request that the Board of Trustees show mutual respect for not just ourselves, but also to other members of our community who are present, as well as the time that we are sharing today. Students from all backgrounds have gathered to discuss specific problems they have about their lives that are incredibly significant to them. Students and members of the community who are part of the CSU system are looking to the Board of Trustees to look into all of their very legitimate issues. Even at the risk of seeming overdone, these repetitions simply help to emphasize how critical these concerns are. It feels quite hurtful to be disregarded for a legitimate issue as people have been repeatedly in previous meetings. As much as this might just seem like an hour or two of your time, we have been waiting for months to spend time trying to speak on these issues that we face. So please just hear us out and realize that we want to make the CSU better with your assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers, Nishant Totla, Nicholas McKenna, and Daisy Armenta. Nishant, you may begin.
Hi, my name is Nishant, and I'm speaking as a person of dominant caste Hindu descent. I grew up in India and currently I'm a community member in the Bay Area. When the state of California sued Cisco for failing to protect a Dalit employee against caste discrimination, I was not surprised because I have seen firsthand how such discrimination plays out in American institutions, including universities and companies. The Cisco case is just the tip of the iceberg. Very few of my friends are comfortable speaking up for fear of retaliation because caste is not a protected category. They deserve to be protected. I'm really grateful that the Board of Trustees understands this issue and is acting to make caste a protected category, to make CSUs a safe space for everybody, including our future generations. Thank you so much for this time.
Thank you. Nicholas, you may begin.
Hello, my name is Nick McKenna, and I'm a student at Fresno State and a part of the United Students Against Sweatshop, Local 4251. I am here to call upon Fresno State President Jimena Sandoval to rescind the layoffs. As a member of Fresno community, Fresno State and a student, I do not understand how the campus can continue to have a low-paid staff laid off when it is planning to receive almost $100 million in federal stimulus, which is a 5% increase in state funding when compared to before the pandemic. All this alongside a return to in-person instruction in the fall. Shortly after Fresno State laid off 2 skilled tradesmen Teamsters, making less than $60,000 a year, President Jimena Sandoval started off a full annual salary with almost $350,000 a year. It's ridiculous to continue to lay the burden on your underpaid staff. And this when you have the money to pay for those executive salaries and are receiving even more. Rescind the layoffs at Fresno State. Thank you.
Thank you. Daisy, you may begin.
Hi, my name is Daisy with United Students Against Sweatshops Local 559, and I'm here in support of Teamsters Local 2010 skilled trades workers as they prepare to return to bargaining for fair pay at the CSU. The issues around low pay, lack of salary steps, and other inequities have only gotten worse during the pandemic, where pay was frozen and the lowest paid workers were some of the first to suffer layoffs. Students have not forgotten the massive surplus CSU built on the backs of workers and students at the campuses were at best reluctant to put to use addressing the worst pandemic in more than 100 years. We stand with workers in saying that essential work deserves fair pay. We will not stand for CSU using the pandemic as another excuse to delay fair pay for their dedicated workers.
Thank you. The next 3 speakers, Alyssa Smith, Angel Rojas, and Angel Rivera. Alyssa, you may begin.
My name is Alyssa, and I'm here as part of USAS Local 5241 at Fresno State, and I'm here speaking in support of Teamsters, CSU, EU, and other underpaid CSU workers who have been laid off due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Within the past year, CSU Fullerton announced plans to lay off some of the lowest paid Teamsters skilled trades workers and other support staff. The campus claimed a lack of work, but that was not the case then, and especially not the case now. The campus moved to rescind multiple layoffs of Teamsters members after the union demonstrated that the proposed layoffs were unnecessary. And now CSU Fullerton is planning for primarily in-person instruction in the fall and saw its enrollments increase in spite of remote learning. The campus will receive more than $126 million in federal stimulus for COVID-19 impacts on operations and a share of the $325 million in deferred maintenance funding from the impending state budget. With all this money on hand, we call on President Verdi to end these layoffs and put them back to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel Rojas, you may begin.
Hello, everybody. My name is Angel Rojas, and I'm a student at Fresno State and a part of United Students Against Sweatshops, Local 5241. During the pandemic, San Francisco State Citing financial impacts of COVID-19 and declines in enrollment, laid off several hardworking, skilled trade Teamsters and dozens of other support staff, more than any other CSU campus. While laying off staff making far less than the more than $370,000 she will earn, San Francisco State President Lynn Mahoney claimed that she couldn't unilaterally reduce executive compensation as it will have to be done centrally by the CSU system. A system where the lowest paid staff are laid off while executives making $300,000 plus are insulated from the cuts. This is not a just system. With San Francisco State receiving more than $8 million in federal stimulus for operations and soon to receive more state funding than ever before the pandemic, it's far past time for President Mahoney to rescind these layoffs. It's time for the system that I've grown to love and I'm proud to be part of to fulfill the ideals that encourages its students to follow. Thank you.
Thank you. Angel Rivera, you may begin.
Hi, my name is Angel, and I'm here as a part of ESAS Local 559, and I'm here speaking in support of Teamsters, CSU-EU, and other underpaid CSU workers who have been laid off due to the COVID-19 pandemic. At Sonoma State University, Teamsters and other staff faced layoffs because the campus claimed a lack of work due to the pandemic. Months later, the campus claims it plans to return to primarily in-person instruction in the fall, but has made no move to rescind remaining layoffs. With the newly approved state budget that has hundreds of millions in funding for critical deferred maintenance projects and more than $26 million in federal stimulus for Sonoma State operations, what possible justification could there be for not rescinding these layoffs? President Sakaki, end these layoffs and make your workers whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers, Ethan Quaranta, Carlos Davidson, and Manmeet Singh. Ethan, you may begin.
Hello, my name is Ethan, and I am a student at CSUMB and speaking in favor of CSU fossil fuel divestment. The CSU has invested over $80 million directly in Exxon and Chevron, in addition to over $155 million in fossil fuel assets, and that isn't accounting for campus-level investments. How can the largest academic institution in the nation be invested in an industry that bankrolls propaganda machines to stymie action on climate change and buried a damning report on the effects of fossil fuels on the climate some 50 plus years ago from their own scientists, in addition to warnings from others from over 100 years ago? How can an academic institution that purports to support sustainability and claims to be around to prepare us for a better future simultaneously be invested in an industry that literally destroys our future? While I appreciated the announcement at the last meeting from the Chancellor on the same day, which is probably just a coincidence, of the International Energy Agency's announcement that all investment in new fossil fuel projects must halt in order to achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions by mid-century, which is in line with the Paris Climate Accords that everyone likes to say they support. So put your money where your mouth is. Finally, the concept has the support of the state treasurer, state superintendent of public instruction, and many others due to fiscal responsibility, as fossil fuels are not making as much as possible as others, and the entire energy industry only makes up less than 3% of the S&P 500. Thank you.
Thank you. Carlos, you may begin.
Thank you, trustees. I'm a recently retired professor at San Francisco State. Both the California State Student Association and the statewide Academic Senate recently passed resolutions calling for the CSU to divest the SWIFT and TRP funds from fossil fuel companies. In divesting, the CSU would be joining many other educational institutions, including the University of California system, Oxford, Cornell, Georgetown, and Johns Hopkins universities, Oregon State, Rutgers, USC, University of Vermont, and the University of Michigan, as well as our own Chico, San Francisco, and Humboldt State campuses. If all these schools could divest to support their commitment to sustainability, then so can the CSU. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Manmeet, you may begin.
My name is Manmeet, and I'm a recent graduate from Cal Poly SLO and a graduate student at San Francisco State, asking you to immediately add CAST as a protected category. The Cal State Student Association, Board of Directors at Cal Poly SLO and Cal Poly Pomona, and the Faculty Diversity Equity Committee and the Academic Senate at East Bay State have already unanimously put forth support in asking y'all to add caste-based protections and explicitly ban caste-based discrimination to ensure equal protections for all. I will not repeat the facts that have already been presented to y'all over and over again. Instead, I will remind you that the position that you hold has immense power to uplift the voices of the most marginalized, power to make the CSU a national leader in its commitment to diversity and equity. And I urge you to use that power to listen to 500,000 of the students in the CSU, as well as millions beyond who are asking you to choose justice, to choose to be on the right side of history. In a webinar, Chancellor Castro had promised a statement by fall. I hope that this board and this office will, with courage and bravery, uphold its promise of protecting the most vulnerable against all the cacophonies trying to gaslight, attack, and erase caste-oppressed voices. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers, Juliana Gutierrez, Jade McDonald, Kayla Moore-Jones. Juliana, you may begin.
Hello?
We can hear you. You can begin.
Hello, my name is Juliana Gutierrez. I'm a student at CSU San Marcos and a part of Students for Quality Education. Police officers are not equipped nor adequately trained to answer calls dealing with mental health. I have witnessed firsthand as a student UPD's inability to handle mental health crisis situations. In this particular situation, when the police officer initiated the interaction with the suicidal community member, he was immediately aggressive with him. I intervened and stated, "You don't have to be so hard on him." He pulled me aside and redirected that energy towards me and told me that the reason we're so hard on him is because we need to get information out of him and that this wasn't his first time doing this. These two statements themselves are alarming to me. Their first priority should not be interrogation. It should be the well-being of the person they are interacting with, and it does not matter if it was their first or 100th time. Anytime a mental health crisis situation arises, it should be treated seriously. We need to reallocate funds from UPD to fund resources that support students like mental health services. And I wanted to add something else because I heard they were talking about renaming some building for President Haynes. President Haynes did not do anything for the university. If anything, she used funds from the university to support fine dining, alcohol, resorts, and private drivers. Why not rename that building after the indigenous lands that they are on, Kumeyaay and Luiseño lands? Thank you.
Thank you. Jade, please accept the unmute request and you may begin.
Good morning. My name is Jade McDonald and I'm a student with SQE and go to Cal State San Bernardino. Defunding and abolition of university police departments are actively being advocated for by students across the CSU system. During the last school year, the Cal State Student Association created a student-led task force for reimagining public safety on campus that properly reflected the needs of students. Alongside the student-led task force, CSSA has committed to advocating for the complete disarming and full abolition of university police departments across the CSU. The Cal State Student Association and their task force are advocating for the complete reallocation of campus funding for university police departments and investment in life-sustaining resources for students. In addition to this task force, many CSU ASI chapters have written and passed resolutions in favor of abolition and the reallocation of funds. Abolition and funding reallocation will not only make campus safer for students of marginalized communities, but also create a better quality of higher education. Thank you.
Thank you. Kayla, please accept the unmute request and you may begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Kayla Moore-Jones and I attend Cal State Northridge. I am also a member of Students for Quality Education. The retention rate of Black students at Cal State Northridge has been an ongoing issue since my freshman year, and I am now going into my senior year. Our retention rate has been on a steady decline, and it is because of a lack of support on campus. There are some great resources and opportunities for Black students at CSUN, but that is all done through the hard, unpaid work and advocacy of our Black faculty, staff, and student leaders, not the institution. The institution places the responsibility on student leaders to retain our own peers when this institution is supposed to be for the student. Stop expecting students to do your job Invest in your students and create an institution that serves all students, not just the majority. Stop saying that there isn't any money when you all get pay increases and UPD is being paid egregious amounts to do nothing. Stop admitting students of color and not providing the tools and resources necessary for student success. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next three speakers, Melise Bonifacio Juarez, Kyle Campbell, and Beth Contreras. Melise, you may begin.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Melise Bonifacio Jerez. I am a fifth year at Chico State and a member of Students for Quality Education. A task force was created on my campus to reimagine UPD practices in response to the rising awareness that policing as an institution is not keeping us safe. 50 recommendations were given by that task force, none addressing the voices of students who in an open forum called in favor for the abolition, disarming, and defunding of Chico State UPD. This feel-good PR report does nothing but silence those very same student voices. My campus is not the only campus that has a task force on these systemic issues, and it won't be the only one that silences voices that are affected greatly by racist institutions like the police. We are tired of having to repeat over and over to you that police does not keep us safe, but we will until this board, the CSU, and the world understand policing does not keep us safe. I yield my time.
Thank you. Kyle, please accept the unmute request and you may begin.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Kyle Campbell. Currently, I'm a student majoring in history at Cal State Bakersfield. Over the past 2 years, the world has faced tremendous physical and social hardships, with inequalities becoming ever more widespread. The universities across the CSU network are returning to in-person instruction without the credible means of proper repopulation protocols. And student safety is of the utmost priority, not just their education. The lack of standard operating procedures and infrastructures that should have been implemented to ensure student safety is absurd and a direct contradiction of a scholar's right as a paying attendee. You are required to maintain conversations and relationships between admin and the union, or seek to rehabilitate said partnerships now, before the start of the fall 21 semester. Doing so will properly facilitate and sustain the university's obligations to implement regimental change. Students that are a part of the CSU family deserve protection and safety without question. Let's act accordingly. We are more than the numbers that appear before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, please accept the unmute request and you may begin.
My name is Beth Contreras, a student for quality education. I'm a third-year student at Fresno State. Since all of you have become so bothered by us repeating our needs as students, we're going to get more specific. Fresno State, in addition to all 23 CSUs, perpetuates rape culture and sexual assault on and off campus in both student and faculty communities. Here, most of the perpetrators are athletes and are seldom expelled, suspended, or even removed from their respective teams due to Fresno State's status as a university primarily known for its athletics. Former President and now Chancellor Joseph Castro is well aware of this, as well as the school's UPD. Clary Act reports show that as little as 3 sexual assault reports, both on and off campus, per year, highlighting vicious underreporting due to UPD's neglect of sexual assault victims. Reports of sexual assault are unlikely to be filed due to fear of retaliation or neglect of sexual assault victims by both UPD and university administration. Fresno State students are still suffering from sexual trauma and abuse, despite no accounts of it being reported by the UPD, proving them to be ineffective in handling or even responding to cases of sexual assault and abuse. We demand alternatives to policing that don't include protecting college athlete rapists or their sports careers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers, Yahera Victorino, Matt Mason, and Drew Scott. Yahera, please accept the mute request and you may begin.
Hello, my name is Yahaira Victorino and I am a student at Sacramento State. I am here to talk to you about defunding our university police department. Sac State administration believes that just because our police department exists on our beautiful university campus, they won't behave like other police do. All cops are complicit in white supremacy. On June 4th of 2021, a sergeant and a corporal from Sacramento State Police Department tased teenagers and placed their knee on the neck of a teenager on our Sac State campus for riding bicycles. The current police chief, Marky Waza, and the university itself stated that the manner in which both the sergeant and the corporal reacted was within policy. This is the problem. Police do not know how to deal with conflict without escalating into violence. The current police system and their policy is only meant to further marginalize Black, Indigenous, and people of color. We don't need more training for police. We need to create something new and community-based, because this system cannot work if teenagers cannot be teenagers on a school campus without police escalating conflict and violence.
Thank you. Matt, you may begin.
Thank you, brothers and sisters in USAS. My name is Matt Mason. I'm a Sacramento State steward and a member of the Teamsters Local 2010 Unit 6 bargaining team. For over a year, we as skilled trades workers have continued coming in and doing our essential work to keep the CSU campuses safe and operational during the COVID-19 pandemic. We risked our health and safety and received no general salary increases in that time, given the impact of the CSU's budget. As if we hadn't sacrificed enough, the CSU campuses then moved to lay off our members over a supposed lack of work and funds, even as the campus presidents took no cuts to their salaries. With the CSU in line for more than $1.5 billion in federal stimulus to address the operational impacts of COVID-19, and there is a full registration in the cuts in the funding, plus an additional 5% base increase when the governor signs the budget. There is also an imminent return to in-person instruction in the fall. We're here once again to demand that campuses rescind any remaining layoffs and make our members whole. You have the funds, you have the work. Please bring our members back. Thank you.
Thank you. Drew, you may begin.
Good morning. My name is Drew Scott, and I'm the Skilled Trades Director for Teamsters 2010. When the pandemic emerged and campuses closed, our union made the decision to extend our contract given the challenges and uncertainty around the financial impacts of this crisis. We have now had 2 July 1st come and go without a penny in general salary increases for our hardworking, essential skilled trades workers. The issue of salary inversion, lack of salary steps, and pay that lags the cost of living and the market for comparable work have only gotten worse in this time. The pandemic has not stopped the relentless increase in the cost of housing and basic needs that our frozen pay is less and less able to afford. Our agreement to extend the contract included a reopener to bargain wages and benefits in the event of a restoration of CSU's funding, which has happened, and then some. As we move to enter this contract reopener, we are calling upon the trustees and the campus presidents to ensure fair pay for our essential skilled trades workers. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers, Tessie Reese, Martin Brenner, and Don McCauley. Tessie, you may begin.
Thank you. I'm Tessie Reese, Unit 2 Chair from San Diego State and for CSUEU. Overall, California has received more than $9 billion in federal COVID aid for its higher education institutions. We need to ensure that CSU campuses are using their one-time pandemic funds as intended to prepare for a safe return to campus operations this fall. The expectation is that all students and staff who come onto a CSU campus must be vaccinated. Yet that is but the fact is just a little over half of all eligible Californians are fully vaccinated. And of course, we are uncertain of how the new Delta variant, known to be more aggressive and infectious, will impact the state. We need to ensure the campus buildings ventilation is modernized. We need masks, sanitizers, plastic desk dividers, digital thermometers, etc. Our union will be meeting with Chancellor's office and campuses to advocate for a safe and fair vaccination policy, as well as a sensible repopulation policies. Those who are not fully vaccinated, who do not disclose their vaccination status, should be required to continue regular COVID testing that is fair, equitable, and that their information is kept safe and confidential and HIPAA protected. Those areas of high contact, like a repopulated university campus, will need irregular safety assessments, and hopefully with input from CSUEU, your partners who are there day and day on your campuses. Workers have a right to work in a safe and healthy workplace. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin, you may begin.
Hi, I'm Martin Brenner, CSUEU Unit 9 Chair. On March 4th, 2020, Governor Newsom declared a state of emergency for the state of California. At the present time, more Americans have died from COVID than the combined U.S. war combat deaths for World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Gulf Wars combined. Yet no CSU campus president declared a campus emergency, thereby avoiding emergency pay provisions for employees who were required to work on campus. As essential frontline workers, we risked our lives, exposed our loved ones, and scrambled for child and elder care. We kept the CSU fully operational even when other institutions were shuttered. To its credit, the CSU enacted its own version of emergency pay. However, this policy only covered 2 months, ending in June 2020. At a time when California's COVID death rates were 60 a day, even though the California daily COVID death rates rose to 500 per day in December and January of 2021, this was not enough of a health-related emergency to grant employees ordered to remain on campus emergency pay. We need the CSU to work with us to repair and clarify how emergencies will be handled going forward. We know more emergencies are lying ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn, you may begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chancellor Castro and Board of Trustees. I'm Dawn McCulley, Bargaining Unit 7 Chair of the California State University Employees Union. The pandemic has had a profound impact upon us all. About a year ago, the state was predicting an unprecedented budget shortfall with estimates as high as $54 billion. As a result, the CSU budget suffered a significant reduction with a resulting scramble to economize wherever possible. Unions representing employees requested that previous year's budget surpluses and savings be utilized to avoid layoffs of employees. To some extent, this was done, but certainly not to the degree that would have entirely prevented layoffs. Imagine your compensation and healthcare being terminated during a global and national health crisis, the lack of opportunities to find alternative employment, with national unemployment figures spiking to over 14% in April of 2020 and remaining at a 10-year high through July 2020. This was the reality for many of our represented employees. With an estimated $75 billion surplus by the state, the CSU's budget has been restored, amounting to roughly $300 million, and the system has received over $1.5 billion emergency relief funding. This is yet another example where a state budget results in hardships for an employees, and even when funding is restored or even augmented, it is redirected to other projects and programs, leaving the most vulnerable employees in dire conditions. Please do the right thing. Bring your employees back now. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next 3 speakers, Andrea Skinner, Jessica Westbay, and Sarah Conwall. Andrea, you may begin.
Good morning. I'm Andrea Skinner from the CSU Channel Islands and CSU EU Unit 9 Bargaining Vice Chair. The CSU should have a system-wide telecommuting policy. This past year, we have learned that we can work remotely and effectively during a COVID crisis. We're not the only ones. When the state of California reopened on June 15th, the state's HR director sent a memo to all employees saying in part, and I quote, "Telework is going to be a permanent part of our work lives going forward. It is up to us to capture the broader, longer-term benefits in integrating telework in the way we do our business. The CSU should have, and I dare say needs, to have a system-wide policy governing telecommuting. There should be established guidelines to help campuses craft reasonable and forward-looking telecommuting policies. What we have right now is campuses policies. What we need is clear and comprehensive guidance that maximize employee productivity and well-being. Our unit is prepared to work with the CSU to build and support a new model of work. There is no turning back now. We have seen that quality, efficient work is not and should not be tied to the office cubicle. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica, you may begin.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Westbay, Vice President for Representation for CSUEU and a 10-year staff member at Chico State. Throughout the COVID pandemic, CSUEU and the CSU worked together to protect the students and staff. We supported the CSU in its successful budget ask. That experience created the hope and possibility of real change for the staff. We want the CSU to use the recurring and some of their one-time increases to create and sustain good jobs that our staff rely on to support their families and pay back into the economy. CSUEU looks forward to working with the CSU on the salary study, developing a shared agenda to reform our broken salary system. Our salary system should not only appeal to the candidates you hope to attract, but also reflect the value of the current staff's dedication, skills, and expertise. Competitive compensation practices should be essential to staff recruitment and retention, and every year this is not addressed leads to a widening of the gap. The CSU should not be a staff training ground for the private sector. The CSU should be a bastion for those who are willing to dedicate their careers to the service of our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, please accept the unmute request and you may begin.
Hello, I'm here to speak in support of the policy adding caste as a protected category in the CSU's anti-discrimination policy. We must recognize the humanity of people experiencing caste-based discrimination and violence. Right now, Dalits and caste-oppressed people are unable to report discrimination at work, school, and other places because caste is not a protected category. It should be. Caste affects every aspect of the South Asian diaspora, such as housing, employment, and access to resources. It operates on an interpersonal and structural level. We need protections to ensure caste-oppressed people are not being denied the opportunities they deserve. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next three speakers, Radhika Marwaha, Prem Pariyar, and Lakshmi Tihatri. Radhika, you may please accept the unmute request and you may begin.
Hi, I'm speaking as an oppressor caste, specifically a Khatri Hindu caste Punjabi student from UC Davis. I'm here to speak as a community member in support of adding caste as a protected category. At our university, as at many other universities within the CSU system, we have mobilized to make caste a protected category because rampant discrimination exists across organizations, community spaces, etc., in the South Asian diaspora, spanning different faiths, ethnicities. It doesn't matter where or when caste originated. What matters is that our Dalit siblings are traumatized today, and we are indebted to institutionalizing protections. This is just an additive approach. We're adding a layer of protections to ensure civil rights. And so adding caste as a protected category is not going to detract from any existing protections to any religious, ethnic group, as others might tell you. And it doesn't take anything away from anyone. So thank you so much for listening to me, and please consider doing so.
Thank you. Prem, you may begin.
Hello, Chancellor and Board of Trustees. This is Prem Pariyar. I am recently graduated MSW student at CSU East Bay. I'm a Nepali Dalit. I am here to advocate for inclusive education at CSU system. Caste has become a global phenomenon. This is the root cause of all forms of discrimination, including race, gender, and others. I have experienced caste discrimination in California and even in my campus, and could not report because caste was not protected. The social work department at CSU East Bay adopted caste as a protective category. The academic senate at CSU East Bay passed the caste resolution. Every day, caste impacts all South discrimination. We had protest on Cisco against caste discrimination in the California, and many Dalits, Adivasis joined the protest and shared their stories, how they were impacted by casteism. Let us all support this anti-caste discrimination policy at CSU system. Time has come to speak up against this brutal system of oppressions and for change. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Lakshmi, please accept the unmute request and you may begin.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Lakshmi. I'm Nepali Hindu Dalit woman. I'm here to support anti-caste discrimination policy. Caste has become worst problem. We are educated, but we are still becoming the victim of caste discrimination in the Bay Area and in the US. Untouchability is being practiced every day. It is said by the dominant caste group that caste is not a reality, but it is not true. I have experienced caste discrimination in my whole life in my home country, Nepal, and in the California. The caste discrimination exists in the US and in the Bay Area. Many Nepali Dalits are scared to speak up against the caste discrimination. I'm really worried about my kids. So please support this anti-caste discrimination policy at the CSU system. Dalit rights are human rights. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Shivani Kavaluru. Shivani, you may begin.
Thank you. I'm a queer disabled immigrant survivor advocate born and raised in India, and now I'm a tax-paying resident in California with several siblings at CSU. I'm also an upper caste Brahmin who supports adding caste as a protected category in CSU's anti-discrimination policy. I know for some of you, caste is either a concept taught in world history or something you associate with the British rule. You need not look further than the NJ Bop story, the Times op-eds, or the hundreds of brave caste-oppressed voices demonstrating that casteism not only predates British colonial rule by thousands of years, but it's also dangerously alive and well in the diaspora and is harming your students here in the States. Every existing protected category was once confusing and can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Sorry. Every existing protected category was once enigmatic or confusing. All it took were people who were committed to protecting oppressed individuals. So CSU Board of Trustees, please protect your Dalit students who currently fear to even speak their truths because there's no institutional recognition for their specific experiences. And I thank you so much for your time. I know Board of Trustees do a lot of work and have a lot of meetings. And I really appreciate you listening to everyone here today. And I hope you can add caste as a protected category. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And thank you to all of our speakers this morning. Chair Kimball, that concludes public comment.
Thank you to all the speakers for your comments. At this time, Trustee Day